The wind was cold, biting through the layers of clothing worn by the few passers-by on that forgotten stretch of road near the outskirts of the city. But none of them noticed the shape curled up on the side of the path, mud-stained, shivering, and unmoving. It wasn't trash, though many treated it as such. It was a dog, a small, brown mutt with eyes that no longer blinked in curiosity, only in pain. For 12 long days he waited. He had once been someone's whole world, tail wagging, tongue lolling, chasing butterflies in the backyard. That world shattered the day his owner's car spun out on that very road. Emergency sirens came and went. The human he loved was taken away. And he was told, stay. And so he did. Day 1, he barked at the flashing lights, unsure why they weren't bringing her back. Day 2, he sniffed every scent on the ground, hoping to catch hers. By day 3, he didn't move far. He just waited, eyes fixed on the curve in the road, where the car had disappeared. Hope clung to him like the mud on his fur. Locals started to notice. An older woman named Ruth who passed by each morning whispered, "That poor baby's still there." She left scraps of food by the tree, hoping he'd eat. Sometimes he did. Sometimes he didn't. A young man named Caleb tried to approach him, kneeling down with his hand out. The dog backed away, ears low, but didn't growl. He wasn't angry, just lost. "I think he's waiting for someone," Caleb told his friend that night. "Like, someone who's never coming back." The rain came on the 6th day, cold and harsh, the kind that soaks you to the bone. The dog stayed, shivering under a fallen signboard. He barely lifted his head when Ruth came by. She left an old towel and a slice of turkey from her lunch. "Hang in there, sweetheart," she whispered, her voice breaking. On the 8th day, Caleb returned, this time with a blanket and a plastic bowl of chicken broth. He didn't come alone. He brought his sister, Mia, a veterinary student. "He's dehydrated," she said softly, crouching just a few feet away. "Malnourished, too. But it's not physical injury that's keeping him here. It's grief." Caleb frowned. "Grief? Can dogs really feel it like we do?" Mia nodded. "Some do, especially the loyal ones. Look at him. He's not even guarding himself. He's not afraid. He's just waiting." She gently slid the broth closer. The dog sniffed but didn't drink. Instead, his eyes flickered toward the road again. That same spot. Always that spot. By the 10th day, he had a name, at least one given by Ruth. "Sammy," she said. "He looks like a Sammy. Strong but sweet." Sammy was now known to the neighborhood. Kids pointed at him from school buses. Shopkeepers started sending out food. Even a local news blogger wrote a small article. Asterisk, "The dog who won't leave, a story of loyalty." Asterisk. But Sammy remained distant. He didn't bark, didn't chase birds, didn't even flinch when cars whizzed past him. Then, on the 12th day, something changed. Caleb arrived earlier than usual, a cup of coffee in hand, ready to check on Sammy before heading to work. As he approached the familiar spot, he saw the dog standing. Not curled up, not laying down, but standing. Tail low but upright. "Hey, buddy," Caleb said softly, slowing his pace. Sammy turned his head. For the first time in days, his eyes met Caleb's directly. There was something different. Not quite hope, but maybe trust. Caleb crouched, holding out his hand. "I'm not going to force you, but you don't have to do this alone." Sammy took a step, then another. He stopped just out of arm's reach, sniffing the air between them. Then, with a small whimper, he sat down, still watching. Behind them, a gentle engine sound approached. A white SUV slowed to a stop. The door opened. A woman stepped out. Early 30s, bandaged wrist, a small scar on her cheek. Her eyes welled up instantly. "Sammy." The dog's ears perked. Caleb stood stunned. "You know him?" She nodded, tears falling. "He's mine. I thought he'd run away after the crash. I looked. I searched for days. No one knew / Sammy didn't need more than her voice. He bolted, straight into her arms. The woman dropped to her knees as Sammy whined, tail thrashing, licking every inch of her face he could reach. Passers-by stopped. Ruth watched from her porch, hand on her heart. Caleb couldn't help but smile. The dog who waited for 12 days finally had his reason to leave. And in that moment, muddy, soaked, and shaking, he looked like the happiest dog in the world. But just as the scene seemed to close with joy, the woman looked up, still hugging Sammy. "You said you were feeding him? Watching him?" Caleb nodded. "We just didn't want him to be alone." She gave a weak smile. "Thank you. But there's something else, something I haven't told anyone yet. Caleb tilted his head. What is it? She looked back at the road. The crash. It wasn't just an accident. Someone ran us off. And Sammy saw it all. Caleb's heart pounded. The woman stood, holding Sammy close. He may be the only witness. Caleb stood frozen for a moment. Sammy's low whine the only sound between them. The revelation hit like a shockwave. What was meant to be a touching reunion suddenly turned into something darker, deeper. A dog's loyalty had uncovered a secret no one else could have guessed. The woman's name was Claire. As they sat on the curb, her voice trembled as she recalled the night of the crash. I was driving home late, she began, gently stroking Sammy's back as he lay beside her. It was raining. I saw headlights in my rearview mirror, bright too close. I thought they were just impatient, but then they rammed me. Twice. The second time, I lost control. The car flipped. The airbag saved me, but when I woke up, Sammy was gone. Caleb's brow furrowed. Did you report it to the police? Claire nodded. They said there wasn't enough evidence. No cameras. No license plate. Just tire marks. They treated it like a simple accident. But Sammy, he remembers. I know he does. Sammy lifted his head slightly, his ears twitching at her voice. He looked up at her with the same eyes that had watched the road for nearly 2 weeks. Caleb glanced at him. What if he can help? Maybe. I don't know. Some kind of behavior specialist. Claire gave a small laugh through her tears. You think a dog could solve a crime? Maybe not alone, he said, standing. But you're not alone either. Let me help. The next day, Claire and Sammy visited Mia's clinic. Mia examined him carefully, noting his weight loss and dehydration. But what struck her most was how Sammy reacted when she brought out a model car. She wheeled it across the floor slowly. Sammy's body tensed. But when she added a small recording of a revving engine, his reaction changed. He growled, eyes locked on the model, muscles coiled like springs. He remembers, Mia whispered. That sound. It means something. Claire sat beside Sammy, brushing his fur. You protected me then. Can you protect me now? The next few days were a whirlwind. Local news picked up the reunion story after the blog post went viral. Reporters visited the crash site. The public was touched by Sammy's loyalty, but then stunned by Claire's claim. Asterisk, dog witnesses crash owner says was no accident. Asterisk. Suddenly, the police were listening. Claire was invited to restate her report. Caleb and Mia stood with her, Sammy at her feet like a silent bodyguard. A detective named Torres took interest. You said there were no security cameras near the road? Claire nodded. That's what they told me. Torres gave a tight smile. They were wrong. A traffic cam a mile away caught a glimpse of the vehicle approaching you. It's blurry, but enough to match it to a suspect car. We reopened the case. Sammy had become more than a loyal companion. He was a symbol of grief, of love, of justice. But as the days passed, someone else was watching. Late one evening, Caleb left the clinic and noticed a car parked across the street from his building. The same car appeared the next night. And the next. It wasn't coincidence. He called Claire. Are you sure no one else knew about your statement? Just you, Mia, the vet clinic, and the police. Caleb hesitated. I think someone's trying to scare us. We have to be careful. Claire agreed. She installed cameras at her place and stopped taking Sammy out alone. But Sammy, he sensed the tension. He stopped sleeping soundly. He growled at shadows. Then one night it happened. Claire had gone to sleep with Sammy curled at the foot of the bed. Around 2 a.m., Sammy jerked upright. He barked. Loud, sharp, urgent. Claire woke to the sound of a window creaking open. Before she could react, Sammy charged. The man who had slipped and didn't expect resistance. Certainly not from a dog. Sammy lunged, clamping down on the intruder's arm with everything he had. Claire screamed, grabbing her phone. The man cursed, trying to shake the dog off, but Sammy wouldn't let go. By the time police arrived, the man was bleeding, pinned to the floor. It was the driver, the same man who had forced Claire off the road. His prints matched the wheel, and his injuries matched Sammy's bite. Detective Torres arrived the next morning, standing beside Claire and Caleb as forensics collected evidence. You were right, he said, looking down at Sammy. This dog didn't just wait. He remembered, and he protected. Claire looked at Sammy, whose head now rested in her lap. Her fingers ran gently behind his ears. He waited 12 days, she whispered. And tonight he saved me all over again. Caleb, who had silently watched the chaos unfold, leaned forward. This isn't just a rescue story anymore. It's something else. Claire nodded. It's a story of justice, of loyalty, and of a love that never gave up. But she wasn't done. There's one more thing, she said quietly. I didn't just name him Sammy. That was the name he had when I found him. He was already chipped, already loved by someone else before me. Caleb blinked. Wait, are you saying? She nodded, her eyes misty again. He was abandoned once, before I even knew him. And even then, he loved again, trusted again, fought again. Sammy lifted his eyes, looking between them. They weren't just rescuing him. He was rescuing them all along. And that's when Claire made a decision, one that would change everything. She stood up slowly, brushing off her hands. I want to tell the world about dogs like Sammy, about second chances, about never giving up. And in that moment, the news crews outside got more than a headline. They got a legacy in motion. But there was still one question left unanswered, one shadow still looming, because the man who tried to kill her wasn't acting alone. The silence in the room thickened. Caleb looked at Claire, trying to process what she'd just said. You think he wasn't working alone? Claire nodded slowly. That man. He didn't even know my name when they arrested him. He didn't seem like someone with a personal grudge. Someone told him to do it. Detective Torres followed up within the next few days. Claire's story was now national news. ***, dog waits 12 days, then solves a crime ***. But behind the headlines, a deeper investigation had begun. As the world celebrated Sammy's heroism, police were digging into phone records, financial trails, and possible motives. That's when they uncovered something shocking. Claire had been set to inherit a valuable property her late father left behind, land that a powerful developer had been trying to acquire for years. She'd refused to sell. Months later, she was nearly killed in an accident. Claire felt the blood drain from her face as Detective Torres explained it. We believe the attack wasn't random. The man who broke into your house worked for a private security firm with known ties to that developer. Caleb clenched his fists. So they tried to kill her over land? Not just land, Torres replied. Access to a water reservoir beneath it. Millions of dollars in value. The dots connected like a thread through the wreckage of Claire's life. The inheritance, the threats, the crash, and Sammy, left behind but never abandoning her. Claire sat on her porch that evening, the sun setting behind the trees, Sammy's head in her lap. Her fingers stroked his fur as tears slid silently down her cheeks. You saved me once when I was broken, she whispered. Then you waited for me when no one else did. And now, you've helped save the truth. Sammy gave a soft huff, his eyes half closed in peace. In the weeks that followed, arrests were made. The developer denied involvement, but emails and financial records said otherwise. A grand jury was formed. Claire's testimony, along with surveillance footage and Sammy's attack evidence, became central to the case. Sammy even got his own segment on national TV. The Dog Who Waited. Cameras captured his quiet gaze, his calm presence beside Claire. He never barked. He didn't need to. His story spoke louder than words. Mia's clinic received donations from across the country to support rescued animals. Caleb set up a community watch initiative, and Claire, once nearly forgotten, was now being invited to speak about animal rescue, survivor courage, and justice. But the most beautiful moment came not in a courtroom or a news studio. It came on a bright Saturday morning when Claire, Caleb, and Mia gathered with a small crowd outside the local animal shelter. Sammy sat proudly at Claire's feet, wearing a red ribbon around his neck. Claire stepped forward, her voice clear. Today, we dedicate this wing in honor of the voiceless heroes who stay behind when the world moves on. This is the Sammy Center for Second Chances. The crowd erupted in applause. Cameras flashed. But Sammy? He just looked up at Claire, his tail sweeping the ground slowly. After the ceremony, Caleb leaned over to Claire. You realize this all started because he refused to move. Claire smiled, eyes glistening. Because his heart was stronger than his fear. As they walked back to the car, Sammy paused, his eyes drifting once more toward the curve in the road where he had waited all those days. Claire followed his gaze, knelt down beside him, and kissed his head. You don't have to wait anymore, love. You're home. You're safe. Sammy wagged his tail once, as if he understood, and then finally turned away from that place, walking forward into a new life filled with love, healing, and purpose. Because the dog who waited for 12 days taught the world what it means to never give up, and in doing so, changed far more than one life. He changed them all.